Hello, everyone, and welcome into today's edition To The Point podcast. Everybody's doing well on this Wednesday. A lot to get into. Cole McDonald is going to join me in about half hour's time. We'll get into some baseball storylines. We'll talk some hockey, amongst other things. So that should be a lot of fun. Wednesday, decided to dress a little casual today. Got the sweater on. Was actually out for a little run pre-show, and then I almost got caught in a hailstorm. So that was eventful Wednesday so far. But the sports world's always changing. Lots happening. You never know where it's going to take you. There's a lot of different storylines. There's a lot of different ways that we could start today. And there's a bunch of NBA storylines that I think are really interesting. I'm going to start with two teams that I'm watching last night, and they're two teams that are different but also the same. And I look at the Miami Heat and the Memphis Grizzlies. Both teams win last night. And Memphis is this young team that they do have a star. Ja Morant, one of the best players in the NBA. Then you look at the Miami Heat, and they are a team that is different because they don't have a superstar, if you will. They have good players, Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, who had a great game last night, Bam Adebayo. But they're not your prototypical number one seed where you see a LeBron James, you see a Kevin Durant. It's not transparent. We're like, okay, I know why this team is that good. But I look at both these teams who are favored to win their first round matchups. They're one seed in the East, two in the West. So in a good position to go deep in the postseason. And the more I watch these teams, and I like both all year, the more I start to think they're going to do big things in this postseason because it's important to have depth. And that's something both these teams have. Superstar talent, you need that. Brooklyn has Kevin Durant. They have Kyrie Irving. We'll see what they can do tonight in game 2. But it's also about what do you have beyond that? Do you have guys that you can trust to give you buckets? I watched, the Brooklyn game the other day. This just comes to mind. Kyrie Irving was going off, but if it wasn't Kyrie Irving, you couldn't find a guy that was getting another bucket. There's no set guy where you can trust them to make a three. Or even the Brooklyn Nets don't have a great defender where you look and say that guy is going to play tough defense the whole night, and you can guarantee he's going to give you that type of effort when he's on the floor. Well, I look at these teams, and in particular Miami, before we get to Memphis. But Miami has so many different ways they can beat you. For instance, last night, I thought Atlanta played really well. Trae Young hasn't had the greatest postseason so far, but Bogdanović had 29 off the bench. They battled hard when it comes to rebounding. I thought they had a good game plan. They never gave up. They hit their threes. They battled hard. But with the Heat, they're so difficult to beat because you look and you say, well, okay, maybe we can stop Jimmy Butler. Maybe Lowry will only get assists tonight. He won't knock down shots. But they're such a deep team. If you need a guy who's going to shoot a three or score 11 points in 35 seconds, it's going to be Tyler Hero because the guy is just a freak athlete and he's a great shooter. Every team seems to have a great shooter. He's that guy. Strauss. He's so good, he's now a starter. He was a guy I hadn't heard of before the season started. Duncan Robinson was starting, the three-point specialist. Duncan Robinson's now playing 7 minutes a game. He played 7 last night. He's hardly playing. Defensive liability, a guy they don't really trust. And also, just looking at it, he's not shooting as well. He's a $90 million contract that's on the bench, but that just tells you how deep the Heat are. Vincent had 12 points last night. Dedmon is good off the bench. Cody Martin, he's that defensive special. He's a tough defender. In the NBA, defense it's so tough to quantify because guys are still going to make shots. Marcus Smart is going to defend Kevin Durant tonight, and he's going to defend him well in all likelihood, Defensive Player of the Year. But is Kevin Durant going to have a pretty good game, I imagine? Look like one of the best players in the world? Yeah, if I had to guess, he will. That doesn't mean that the Celtics aren't playing tough defense. That just means that Kevin Durant's just that big of a force offensively. So that I just look at the Heat and the way how many good players they have, how many options they have. With, Jimmy Butler is a guy that's not a superstar. He's been on many teams. He's a guy that is a pain in the ass at times, but he also has something I think in the playoffs that is Jordan-esque. His mentality, his leadership mentality is just, we're going to win. I'm going to show up in big games. I'm going to defend. I'm going to score the big buckets. And I demand that you guys give the same effort. He gives off the same vibe. He wears 22, Jordan wore 23. I'm not comparing them when it comes to how they play the game or their skill sets, but Jimmy Butler has that on his chest where it's like, you know what? We're winning tonight, or I'm going to will us to a win because maybe you guys just don't have it. I think he wants a lot out of his teammates. It can be a lot. Karl-Anthony Towns couldn't deal with it earlier in his career in Memphis. I really don't think that I think Jimmy Butler sniffed out Ben Simmons being, a walking infirmary early on. And he said, get me the hell out of Philly because this guy just doesn't have it. And he doesn't have that type of mentality. But Jimmy Butler is now a leader on a good team, but he's also got a guy that's a champion on the team. He's got a champion in Kyle Lowry who came over. He's got a champion coach. He's got Udonis Haslem who doesn't play, but he's also on the bench that gives off that vibe. So this team is so deep. And they should beat the Hawks easy. And they might play the Sixers, and that'll be an interesting matchup. But when I look at the two teams, just looking ahead, because I think both are going to win their respective series, the Heat are a more dangerous team to me. Because yes, Embiid is a better player, and yes, Harden is a better player. And more often than not, you'd say, well, the two best players are on one team. But what about the depth? I like Maxey, but I look at the Heat. They can throw so many guys at you. They can play. I mean, I watched the Grizzlies, the Heat. These guys play 10 guys every night, if not more. They're not, usually in the playoff time, you shrink and you play about 7 guys. They're playing 10 guys regularly. Vincent, Dedmon, Robinson, Strauss, Cody Martin, Jimmy Butler. You go through, they're all playing normal minutes. We'll get to Memphis, but Desmond Bane, Brandon Clark, Zaire Williams, Tyus Jones, Kenny Anderson, Conchar, Melton, Dylan Brooks. They play so many guys. And it's because they can. Because these players are not just scrubs. When you watch the Raptors, when they won the title in 2019, they didn't have a bench. Nick Nurse has never trusted guys. There's just teams where you go, oh, can I play him? I don't know if I can. Like, I can't play this guy's minutes. My starter's got to play 48 minutes a night because I don't trust these guys. Brooklyn's kind of in that position. There's so few guys that they can play. They play Claxton 30 minutes a game, but do they play Claxton because he's a good player, or do they play Claxton because there is no better alternative? So I love the Heat. I think they're a really impressive team, and they're going to be tough to beat. Now, that doesn't mean that Milwaukee can't beat them. They did last year. But I do think they're a number 1 seed that gets no respect because they're just quiet. Again, there's nothing flashy about them. They play in Miami. LeBron's gone. Okay, Jimmy Butler. The only Jimmy Butler headlines you read are the negative ones. Not about what he brings to the table, but what he brings to the table in a negative way, not in a positive light. So I think that's really impressive. I thought that was an impressive game last night. They closed. Jimmy Butler scores a career-high 45, 15 for 25 shooting. He was efficient. He made some clutch three-point shots, which is not his game. But again, last night I just saw a little bit of MJ. And they're not close. But the way he comes into games, the way he approaches it, it's Jordan-esque with the way he presents himself and the way he carries himself. So there are guys that are just better that can find it in the playoffs. You're an average regular season player, but you bulk up in the playoffs and you're just a better player. You just find ways to have an impact on a team. Drew Holiday is not really a household name. He's not one of the guys in Milwaukee where you go, Drew Holiday is a great player. I thought he was great in the postseason last year. He had a huge impact on them winning. Connaughton for Milwaukee. These are role players, and Jimmy Butler's more of a star, but they have an impact. Now, will the Heat be able to contain the Sixers when they meet? We'll have to wait and see, because tonight, Sixers-Raptors, Game 3 in Toronto. I mean, this is Captain Obvious, but it's must win for the Toronto Raptors. And do I think that they have a beef with the officiating early in this series? Sure. Let's say I do. But also, how about show up? How about actually be involved in a game when the fourth quarter starts? How about, okay, they're getting the calls in the paint. Why don't you get in the paint? How about stop settling for bad three-point shots? How about Fred VanVleet knock down a shot? Nick Nurse, maybe change your game plan and not bitch at the officials about Joel Embiid getting the calls, and maybe try to get a couple yourself by not just sticking to the perimeter. Things change in sports. I know one thing about basketball. You're more likely to get a foul call in the paint than you are beyond the three-point line. I know that definitively. That's not changing. That'll never change. They've outlawed the James Harden rule this year. They limited, so that's even going down. What's Embiid been doing? Getting to the paint. And who on the Raptors can guard Joel Embiid? Can Chris Boucher? No. He's skinnier than Sheamus. Can Precious Achiuwa? No. So you played Monday. You got blowed out. You played Saturday. You got blowed out. I think Nick Nurse is a really great coach. But can you make an adjustment to this? Can you do something to limit Joel Embiid's impact? Because so far, that's been a big, fat no. It's just been kind of your hands up. You're looking at the official, you're bitching, and Joel Embiid has to come over and say, how about just shut up and try to do something about me? So far, that's been it. That's been the storyline of this series. Right now, as of right now, Scotty Barnes is going to play tonight. He's in a walking boot the other day. I don't know how he's going to play, how efficient he's going to be. But if they want this to be a series, if they don't want to get swept and they don't want to make Shaquille O'Neal correct, Fred VanVleet has to be the guy tonight. He is the man on that team. He's the leader of the Toronto Raptors. He's the champion. I think he's the most important player. He's more important than Siakam or Anunoby. Tonight has to be his night. Have one of those vintage nights where you score 40, you get some assists, you're finding Siakam, you're finding OG. You have an impact on the game. Also, take Harden. Yes, he is much bigger than you. That can be a problem. But VanVleet is a great defender. He makes it difficult. Marcus Smart is a lot shorter than Kevin Durant. He made his life difficult. He will the whole series. Did he guard him the whole game? No, but in spurts he did. Make it difficult on your opponent. There's too many times where you just look up and say that's a wide open. Tyrese Maxey, who's a great player, should never have a wide open three. Never. Because if James Harden is passing the ball to a wide open shooter, At this point, James Harden should not be getting double teamed because make him prove that he can beat you, that he can get by you. I thought he had a good game one. He had 6 turnovers in game 2. Was really inefficient. Make him prove that he can get by you. Keep your center in the lane, but don't come over and help automatically because Harden is a good passer and he will find the open guy. If you double Embiid, he gets a pass, I can live with that because Embiid is going to beat you. But I don't think James Harden is the guy that you focus on. It's been too much of, well, Harden's got the ball. Okay, come over and help. Now a guy's wide open, corner 3, it's in. Why not play him straight up? Guard him. The game's in Toronto tonight. They're more likely to get favorable calls. But I'm going to reiterate the point. They are not losing this series because of the officials. This isn't some, the league hates Toronto, small market, whatever. Like, that's not the storyline here. Storyline's been Philly's been better, and Embiid's been better than you, and you're not hitting shots, you're not defending, and you're getting your ass kicked all over the court. Period. This isn't a sob story. Oh, well, the umps are screwing the Blue Jays and the refs are screwing the refs. No. This isn't everybody hates Toronto. Not everything can go well. Leafs are winning. Take it. Jays are first in the division, I think, right there. Bo Bichette cost them the game last night, not the umps. We'll get into that in a minute with Cole. But guard somebody, hit your threes, you'll have a chance. Doesn't mean you're going to win tonight. But if I'm the Raptors, I'm sure getting the 6 seed's a positive season. Yes, of course, yada, yada, yada. But getting swept, it's not a good look. Even a gentleman's sweep would be better in this series. Again, one game, is nothing. I'm of the opinion I'd rather miss the playoffs than lose in the first round. I've had that debate with many friends, family for years. What did that first round get you? If you lose, you get swept. What did it get you? 1 extra week you couldn't go golfing? I'd rather go golfing. Mini cart, mini putt, whatever you're fancy. I'd rather do that for another week than get my ass kicked by an opponent, but that's just me. So 76ers Raptors tonight, they could possibly play the Heat, but that's kind of how I look at that game. Grizzlies. So I mentioned depth, and I went on to the 76ers game for a second, but let's get back to the Grizzlies. Grizzlies are like the Heat, and I mentioned they play 10 guys on an average night. Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks, Brandon Clark, Steven Adams, Zaire Williams, Tyus Jones, Kenny Anderson. I could go on. But the difference is Ja is a superstar. Last night was one of the most impressive games of his career. And what really was impressive about it, not only is it a playoff game, he hasn't played many, but it was a response game. He didn't play. He had a great start in game 1. His second half, he was really out of it. He couldn't do anything in the paint. He turned the ball over, and it was just a game where he wasn't his efficient self. Last night, he only played 29 minutes. He had 23 points, 9 rebounds, and 10 assists. And he had such an effect on the game. He found open players. He found Desmond Bane. He found Clark, Clark is going to play extended minutes for Memphis. Steven Adams played 2 minutes last night. I wouldn't play him the rest of the series because he can't handle. I mean, it was really funny because you seen Cat burn him once early in the game. It was a minute and a half in. And then Taylor Jenkins like, yeah, check please. Can we get somebody else out here? Anybody? But Ja he has such a presence. He has such a knack in the paint, his athleticism. He's so fun to watch. And, Minnesota took it on the chin last night. They're a young team. Memphis is a young team. I still think this is going to be a good series. I think it's going to be a long series. What would concern me, and I did pick Memphis to win the series, so this is not me going on a limb, is Memphis has more depth than Minnesota. In Minnesota, I love Anthony Edwards, as I told everybody yesterday if you listened to the show. He's my new favorite NBA player. It's been a while since I've picked one. Since Dirk, I've been kind of waiting for one to jump out to me. He's my guy, Anthony Edwards. And Cat, really good player, but he's inconsistent. But so those two guys are great. But you look, Malik, I like McDaniels a lot. That kid's tough. But, D'Angelo Russell, I don't trust at all. There's games he just doesn't show up. I just look at the Memphis roster where they have more guys that can bring trouble for a team, that can create problems, that can cause havoc. So that's kind of where I sit right now, where I think Memphis is the better team. They have more depth, and it'll be fun to see Memphis play Golden State, because Golden State, I think they're on a roll. They're getting healthy. They look really strong. But I think that'll be a really fun series. I thought we'd see Phoenix and Dallas. Oh, Phoenix. I'm watching last night, and it's a good game. I give credit to New Orleans. They shouldn't be here. They haven't had Zion play all year, and this team battles their ass off. So Willie Green and that team deserves a ton of credit for getting here. They beat the Clippers. To get to this spot, this team deserves a ton of credit. But Suns are clearly a better team. CP3 had 14 assists last night, not shooting. He doesn't shoot the ball enough. But Devin Booker's having another great game, and he pulls his hamstring. And he did this last year in the NBA Finals, and it changed the series. Phoenix was up 2-0. They lost 4 in a row. Part of that was because they let DeAndre Ayton play man-to-man with Antetokounmpo, and that didn't work. But also, Devin Booker was not his normal self. He wasn't the walking bucket that he normally is, and it created some issues for the Phoenix Suns. So now it's reported this afternoon that Devin Booker is unlikely to play in games 3 and 4 in New Orleans. This is a problem. I still think Phoenix should be able to get out of this series because, yes, without Devin Booker, it hurts. But they have Mikal Bridges, who will need to bring more offense. Great defensive player, was nominated for Defensive Player of the Year. They have Ayton, who can give you more on a consistent basis. I think Cameron Johnson is a guy that, when called upon, seems to step up when he knows he needs to. Jay Crowder also needs to be a guy that hits more shots. He gets a lot of corner threes, not hitting them so far. But for me, this series, game 1 was about Chris Paul. His fourth quarter, 19 points in the fourth quarter, he took that game over. If Devin Booker cannot play again in this series, I'm going to guess he won't. Maybe if it's a 2-2 heading back to the Valley, he guts it out and tries to ramp up his recovery. But what you got to hope in Phoenix is that Chris Paul, who's 37, who is maybe the best player in the history of the NBA to not win a ring. You look at Stockton and Malone, but he's high up on that list. He's hungry to win one. This series, it's a first-round series, but I do think it's dangerous because Ingram is a great player. He had 37 points in 39 minutes last night. He almost had a triple-double, as did CJ McCollum. McCollum's played a lot of playoff games in Portland. He's got playoff experience, and I think Ingram is he's such a confident player. He's not going to be afraid of the moment. He's going to want to upset, be on a team that had no expectations, and Willie Green, a rookie head coach, potentially dethrone Monty Williams and the Red Hot Suns. But this series has to be about Chris Paul. Chris Paul's 37. How many playoff runs does he have left in him? I mean, you look at LeBron, he's 37. He'll be 38 in December. He's played a lot more basketball than Chris Paul, but Chris Paul also has played a lot of ball. He's had some injuries. His body doesn't always hold up. But eventually the torch is going to be passed to Devin Booker. It could still happen in this postseason. It could be Devin Booker's the NBA, the Finals MVP, and Chris Paul was just a guy who played really tough and was a great number 2. But for this first round, where Devin Booker is not an option, he's not a scoring, he can't score, he's not going to be present, Chris Paul has to be the man. He has to go out there and try to win this series. He has to. You want to win this series as quickly as you can. And that's a lot for me to say because I think this series just got a lot more interesting, just got a lot more competitive. Because last night I think the Suns were winning until Booker went down. I think they would have won the game last night, be up 2-0, despite the great efforts from Ingram and from C.J. McCollum and Larry Nance Jr., who's been playing really tough off the bench. But this series, if Chris Paul can be that guy where he's the scoring, like he had 14 assists last night, but he's given Devin Booker a lot. He needs to be the focal point of their offense. Still assist the basketball. Find Jay Crowder in the corner. He can fire up a three. Find your guys that are open. Make good passes, but also don't defer all the time. You're the point of emphasis. If you got a three at the top of the key, take it. If you want to drive it into the paint, get a layup, take it. Because you are the leader of this team. You changed the outlook, the perception of the Phoenix Suns. Before, they were just what I call the Ottawa Senators of the NHL now, 2 years away from being 2 years away. Just a team that had a lot of promise that just overpromised and underdelivered. Well, now you got to an NBA Finals. You got a number one seed in the whole NBA. You control your destiny to the NBA Finals if you can figure it out. But you don't have your star shooting guard with you. You need to be the guy. Can he be the man this whole playoffs? No, but I think Devin Booker will come back eventually. Hamstrings are tough because you're never truly the same. But can he muster it up? And could the two of them lead them to an NBA title? I still believe they can. And yes, he's 37, but I think he's got enough in this postseason to deliver and to perform so that they're in a good position going forward. It's not the Phoenix Suns, a 1 seed, are out in the first round. I don't see the Phoenix Suns being the Chicago Bulls where Derrick Rose got hurt. If you recall, they played the 76ers. I believe this was in 2012. Might have been 2013. But Derrick Rose got hurt in the first round. Couldn't come back, couldn't play. The Chicago Bulls, the number 1 seed, lost to the 76ers in 6 games. An 8 seed moves on. It can happen. Dallas Mavericks lost to Kobe Bryant and the Los Angeles Lakers. Again, a 1 seed in the first round. So it happens. But I believe in Chris Paul. But this is a great opportunity for him to showcase those talents. He's shown a lot. He's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best point guards ever. He's going to be on that list with all these with Magic and with Isaiah Thomas and with John Stockton. His passing ability, I just think his basketball IQ is through the roof. But can you be the man in this series to pull this team? Can you? Sometimes it's not the guy asking them to give you more. Can a guy force you to give you more? If you're in a position where you're wide open in the corner, that's a lot easier to knock down that shot than create your own. Chris Paul is a guy that doesn't necessarily make the players he plays with create their own shot. He creates it for them. He gets in the lane. He finds guys that are wide open. They get to take it a better shot than if they had to dribble, try to get a shot. LeBron did that forever. Kyle Korver was a better player because he played with LeBron James, as was Udonis Haslem, as was just Mike Miller. Those 3-point shooters, yes, they're great shooters. Don't get me wrong. But is it easier? They wouldn't have had half the success if he didn't have to defend, if he didn't have to do half the things he did when he had paint, when he had people in the paint. So lots to discuss for sure. And I'm interested to see what Chris Paul can bring moving forward because Devin Booker is not going to be around. He's not present. It looks like he's out games 3 and 4, and he's not going to be available going forward. So we'll have to wait and see on these guys. but I don't know where Phoenix is going to go. I think the series has got a lot more interesting, got a lot more complex because they don't have their top scoring option. And the Pelicans believe that's the scariest thing you can give a team is belief. Yes, they are inferior. Yes, they aren't as skilled, but they have belief. They've won one. Sometimes that's all it takes. You give somebody an inch, they take a mile. Maybe that will happen in this case with the Pelicans. I don't think this is a guaranteed lock win for the Suns anymore. I think it was the biggest lock ever before. I look now, I'm a little concerned. The Pelicans, again, these two players you love, and I think there's better players on Phoenix still, but Valanciunas against Ayton, that should be a wash. Both guys are skilled centers, but can Nance Jr. give you more off the bench? But I think the Suns still have more of talent than the Pelicans, but if it's CP3, who's the next guy? If the Pelicans, you know who the first two guys are. It's McCollum. It's Ingram. You know it's CP3. Who is that next option? Because there's going to be times when Chris Paul is just not on the floor. He played 36 minutes last night. It's a lot of minutes for a 37-year-old point guard. But Ayton had 10 points last night. He has to be better. Plain and simple. You can't put up 10 points as a center against Valanciunas. I'm sorry. You got to do better than that. But we'll see what happens with the Phoenix Suns. I see we got our guest on the line coming in here, so let's bring him in. Fresh off a Blue Jays loss last night. Cole McDonald. Cole, how are you?
Good, yourself?
Oh,
Can you hear me?
Oh, I got you. There we go.
All right.
Oh,
Hello?
I just heard you.
Hello? Okay, 1 second, I'll try another set.
Wait for Cole. I can start to hear him cut in. You're on mute, I think. Just gonna wait for this to break in here.
Hello? Did you hear me at the start?
It sounds like I start to hear you and then it cuts out. 1 sec here. I'm just gonna wait for.
Hello?
Just a sec here.
At least I'm not Brad Malone. My time's not as valuable. Should just fire something up on Chuggy.
We gotcha.
There you go. Hello?
No.
How about that?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. I don't know what happens with that. Anyway, I thought I fixed the settings yesterday, but I guess we'll have to wait and see on that one. No, Cole, good to see you. How are things in your world?
Good. Good.
Back to teaching after Easter.
Yeah. It was a nice long weekend, but back to reality now, I guess.
Yeah. You an NBA guy? Do you follow the playoffs, any of that stuff, or what? What's
Not
your
overly.
yeah?
I mean, I watched some of the Raptors game one, but I haven't watched since.
Right. Yeah. That game kind of sucked the life out of you.
Yeah, and once Scotty went down, I hope kind of went down too.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about baseball a bit here. Blue Jays fall to the Red Sox last night. Bichette with the costly error in the eighth inning. What have you made of the Jays' start and how they look so far?
I like it. I think there's definitely room for improvement. Could have a better record, but as a Jays fan, a lot of the years I find they stumble out of the gate and they're always chasing. So now with that, I don't know. They're 3-10, and then Bichette makes an error. Then you know what I mean. They pile on Bichette, but if they can win another one, there's not like the media's jumping all over them right away.
Right.
I don't know. I'll take this start because usually it's not a good start. For a while, it's not been.
What's your biggest concern with the team?
It's a deep division. Like you really got to play. I know it's a long season, but still, you got to play well for a long time to do well. Like Boston and New York, yeah, you think you're better than them on paper, but it's a long season, and they'll add. Same with Tampa. Tampa's a good team. I mean, Baltimore. Hopefully, they can walk all over them, but. I don't know. Right? Usually, it's always been pitching, but I'm kind of optimistic about pitching this year, just because there's more numbers, I guess.
Yeah, well, the bullpen looks strong. I think the way they've built that with Simber and Garcia into Romano, I think they got a 7-8-9 that it is as strong as when the runs in 15-16 where they had Grilly and they had Ozuna and when at the peak of his powers. But you look at like a guy like Hyunjin Ryu, who's been a disaster his first two times out so far this season. And Kikuchi hasn't exactly been a guy that's going to give you length either. Is starting pitching, you think, will be something they need to target come deadline or looking ahead?
Yeah, I think any team that's in contention is always trying to get starting pitching depth or help. There's always injuries, but this year for sure they've had more depth where you're starting years with Trent Thornton, these guys, number 4, number 3. Now it's okay if a couple guys go down, we have Trent, who's probably hopefully a better pitcher after a couple years experience. And Stripling, these guys, they have guys to step in where before these guys were penciled in their rotation. And
right.
I don't know. I just like the depth we have this year finally, and we have some arms in the pen you can trust and go to, where before you put a little more stress on these guys because Aaron Loop was serving up dingers. Sorry, but
the tough lefty. Yeah. Yeah. Who's the number one starter right now?
I think Berrios.
Yeah.
Or toss up, but Manoa might be the starter, really.
Mm-hmm.
They've committed to those other guys long term, big money, and they probably don't want to commit to Manoa too much before they pay him. He's gonna walk to the table, demand some money. The way
he's an impressive cat, big picture, but his stuff is really really good. I mean he just seems like a confident guy. Like you see him in the clubhouse. I think the guys really really like him. He's kind of joking. I saw him with Chapman the other day. Those two are kind of chatting and having fun. Like I think he's an easy guy to root for, whether you're a Blue Jays fan or not. I think Manoa is just the kind of player that everybody kind of looks at and says, yeah, I hope that guy does well.
I agree. He. I don't know what about him, but I think he's going to do it and do it for a long time. Where
Mhm.
it's easy to say Nate Pearson might not, but because he's out right now, but he, like you said, the confidence. He doesn't doubt himself. If he has a bad outing, it's not like, oh shit, hit the panic button. He knows what he's got, and that big boy can throw.
Red Sox or Yankees? Who are the better team in your opinion?
I think the Yankees,
Yeah.
just bigger names at the end of the day, but they're just either of those teams can make it and make a splash when they make it. They've done it before, and they can do it again. They have the pockets to spend at the deadline if they're in contention, and I think both of them will.
I look at Garrett Cole, and since the sticky stuff, and he got caught doing it, he's got a 4.31 ERA in 14 starts. That's not a small. That's half a season worth of starts. He only pitched an inning and 2/3 last night against the Tigers. I I worry he may never be the same pitcher again, Cole. Like if that he might have been so reliant on it, he might never be that same Cy Young type guy that he was prior.
I agree, and it's easy to say that though. Those Cy Young years are anomalies, kind of. If you think about it, like if
Mm-hmm.
you can repeat that, you hope for it and you paid for it, but you just kind of hope he comes somewhat close, right? He's a great pitcher, first overall pick. He's been a great
Yeah.
pitcher for a long time. Thank God the Yankees can afford to have
Right.
a number four making $35 million, whatever the hell he's making, but he's in the spot to get overpaid, I guess.
Yeah, and to the Yankees' credit, they do have a better, I think, pitching staff than they did last year. Like Cortez is had a good start to the season. They got Green. Their Germán is back, so I do think they have a better staff behind him than they did prior. So that really hurt them last season, and also helps that DJ LeMahieu is hitting this year so far. He's batting like 350 so far into this season. Um, any player that you've seen so far that on a team like maybe not the Jays that you really like could be a breakout star that maybe nobody's thinking about?
That Cortez kid you just mentioned, I haven't watched a lot, but I
Yeah,
like just the highlights I've seen of him. I think he's something special, and maybe that Adele kid out of
Anaheim.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's got some
yeah,
good.
he's had a hot start. The Angels are such an interesting team to me. I find them so fascinating because their pitching still isn't very good. Otani's had a rough start, but then you have Trout and you have like they crushed the Astros last night, but I doubt that they'll make the playoffs. Like I still don't trust that team at all to produce when you really need them to.
I like them, but I like them as a fan. Uh,
Right.
what do you think of Syndergaard?
I think it's promising.
Yeah,
I've watched both his first two starts, and him and Verlander pitched against each other. Their both first starts back. Both guys have been look great
yeah,
so far. But I think that was a good signing, quite frank. I take my chances with him, with Syndergaard, because yes, he had Tommy John, but it's not like it's a guy that's having Tommy John and you're hoping for success.
yeah,
Like I think if Nate Pearson had a severe injury and then you're hoping for it, you've seen Syndergaard be an elite pitcher in the league, and you got to bank that he has the muscle memory to find it again.
yeah, yeah. I like Rendon too. I find
Mm-hmm.
he's getting paid to play ball. Hopefully, he shows up and starts playing ball. But he was
Yeah,
really
and Walsh, even at first base, has been a really good player as well for them, pretty consistently. But yeah, they're fascinating. I said before this, I like the White Sox a lot. I think they're the biggest threat to the Blue Jays when it comes to representing the American League in the World Series. They're in a pretty cushy division with the Guardians, and even though I think the Guardians crushed them today like 10-0. They got good pitching. They got good bats. You know, Abreu and Jimenez and those guys. I like the White Sox a lot in the American League.
yeah. I like them as well too. But they're young, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't watch them a lot, but they're going to be a freaking exciting team in a few years for sure. and this year, I guess.
How about the Mets? 9-3.
Yeah, thank God they're 9-3 because they.
Yeah.
That's without Scherzer and DeGrom, right?
Yeah.
So that's looking pretty promising, but they've never done it. Or when's the last time they've done it? Like,
I guess they got to the World Series. No, they didn't get. They lost to the Cubs. I guess they got to the NLCS in 2016.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's been a while since they've won, and just they're kind of almost like a curse or like the Leafs. Like, until they do it, fuck, you're always gonna have these doubts.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. No, there's some interesting teams, some good baseball around for sure. I mean, the Dodgers continue to win, no surprise there. They just continue to mash. But I wanted to ask you about Carey Price because I know we talk about him a lot, and he started for your Montreal Canadiens last night. He's had a few starts since coming back. Why do you think he is starting this late into the season?
Because he wants to, because he can. I think it's good that he is starting. Maybe not for his value if he has rough numbers, but just that to get back on the ice, clear his head. I'm not sure. Nobody's sure what he's going through, or we don't. But I don't know, just to get back on the ice and have the support and feel what it's like because it's been so long. It's been a long time. I mean, the Cup Finals, thank God it was really he played the last game of the season, but it's almost a year since he's played hockey, and I think it's just good for him to get back out there and know he can do it. He wasn't great, but he can do it. About put him on an Olympic roster without having a game played. I think it's good that he's back. If he were to come back and really do well, I think that would bolster his trade value.
Right.
But I'm just happy to see him back.
Yeah, I think it's great for the game that he's back as well. And do you think half of it is Montreal trying to get teams to look at him and say he still can play and it'll up their trade value come the summertime?
I think he's too big of a horse that I don't think they had a say. I think they just said, when you're ready, let us know, and you're in when you're ready. He's too valuable to that franchise, and even though they are, I don't want to say cutthroat organization, will do anything to win, I think they would honor Price, his request, whatever. If he said he didn't want to play, I don't think he would be in the net. And
right.
I think he's playing because he wants to play. And just get that feeling, and get the feel for it, know what it's like, and then come back and have an awesome year next year. I think that's what he's thinking. Clearly, that's what I'm hoping for. And, I think even just other teams that have seen him play, what he can do, what he's going to do with this team with 5 games left, 10 games left. I don't think it's really going to hurt his
value.
No.
Yeah. 0 to 100 when it comes to percentage chance he is moved this summer.
50.
I think it's like 50, like right on the line.
No, I shouldn't say that. I'm leaning towards no, just because of his salary, right? I could see him going to Edmonton, Washington, and Colorado just for a fit wise.
Right.
But besides for that, there's only 3 teams that's really interested in, and they also have to pay what he's worth, and it's just hard taking on that 10.5, right? And why would Montreal I wouldn't give him up for nothing. I would for the price, but it's just one of those weird trades. It's like the Eichel trade. It's going to take a long time to make happen, and that was even worse. They're not on bad terms right now, Price in Montreal, right? So they kind of took less maybe, or whatever they thought. Actually, I won't even say 50, I guess. I'll say 25% chance he's moved, just because it's really hard to fit that contract on another team. But if I was Edmonton or Colorado, depending on how Colorado does, well, I guess both teams do this year, if goaltending's the issue, he's definitely the answer, in my view, for both of those teams.
Yeah. What about LA?
I like that Peterson kid. It's just, I feel like it's hard to take on a big goalie unless they ship him back this way.
Right.
if you have a goalie, why? I just can't see anyone with a goalie they like taking on $10.5 million. Like, look at Bobrovsky. I think he's a good goalie too.
Mm-hmm.
He had a rough year last year, but no one's willing to touch him,
No.
right? And he was a Vezina candidate the year before, or did he win them? So
yeah, you won it. You won it. Yeah, the year prior. Yeah.
it's hard to take on 10.5, especially if you have a goalie. Like, you already paying someone 4 or 3 now. Some, like, if Kemp for walks,
Mm-hmm.
not paying no goalie any money. Frank Horace maybe 2 or something, but in Edmonton, I just like the fit there. I mean, if those 3, that'd be a 3-headed monster in my eyes.
Yeah, that'd be interesting for sure. Do you believe Montreal can turn it around quicker than maybe the media is suggesting that this is like a long-term tear it down rebuild? Do you think Montreal could be competitive next year?
Yep, I think they can be competitive, but do I think they can turn around and be a legitimate threat like Florida right now, or Tampa?
Toronto.
I don't. I wouldn't put Toronto in their category, but just an absolute wagon. Like, no, they're not going to be that for a while unless they do a good rebuild. But I think they can be a contender. Just, they went to the Cup final last year. They're the kind of team that rides Carey. That's their star, and if they get in, Carey can take you. They're going to play a ratty defensive game and hope for the best. But no, I don't think they're going to be a contender, an actual contender to win the Cup.
Right.
Like those stud teams right now.
So again, I guess hearing that, I do agree. I think they can be competitive, but then why keep Price if you don't think you can win? I don't really see the point in keeping him if you don't think you can win a cup in the next couple of years.
Because he's a franchise legend, I guess, or icon, and it's just one of those. That's why you would keep him. He's still not. Put it this way: whoever's keeping him, the GM, he's putting wins up for you. He's saving really at the end of it. Same with the coach. I know it's not the coach's call, but if they're gonna totally rebuild, I agree with shipping him. I just think it's such a hard move. I would ship him if you're gonna rebuild. Get rid of all your older guys and retool, whatever you want to call it. I would get rid of them. But if you're gonna do the old retool, go for it next year. I just don't see it, I guess.
Right. Let's say Edmonton is a team. What's your return? Like what has to come back to Montreal for you? Like don't even start the conversation without blank.
I don't want to say a name. I don't think I'm Broberg or one of those top prospects. But as soon as you trade Carey, that's the rebuild. So you're taking Broberg. Who'd they take last year?
Bouchard, maybe.
Yeah, I can't see him coming, but not say him coming, but I can't see them giving him up. But yeah, I would say one of those two. But you might as well take I want Bouchard, but you take Broberg and Pex just because Bouchard. Do you want him to walk in and be a number one defenseman and struggle kind of deal?
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad they take Bouchard. One of those two for sure. And then you're probably going to get Yamamoto or Holloway in a first, something like that. But eat salary too. Once you move Carey, the rebuild's on, then you can eat the salary.
If you're gonna trade him, I'd almost eat half of it to get a better return.
I agree, but it's 4 more years after this year.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd have to do the least Phil Kessel treatment. Like, they're still paying Phil this year, like 1.8. Like, it's the last year of doing it, but it's tough. But you can make it work. Like, the Leafs were competitive paying Phil Kessel. The Rangers have been competitive paying Brad Richards on a buyout. Like, if Montreal could, it'd be difficult, but I think they could work around it. Minnesota's doing it this year with Preezy and with Suter, so maybe they could make it work.
Yeah. I honestly see that big time in Chicago right now. Like, take the money off Kays and Tane, and they're worth the moon, especially Kane.
Yeah,
you're at 5.5, but at 10.5, they're not worth nothing. But yeah, if you're going to do the rebuild, I think you're going to have to do that. Maybe not 50%, but you're definitely going to have to take some money back. And if you're not taking money back, you're taking a bad salary back, another contract off their hands.
Season's not done yet, but it sure looks like the Golden Knights are going to miss the playoffs. And I think that's going to be mass panic in Vegas. They've never missed the playoffs since the inception of their team. They've always been a good competitor. They got no money. They've gone all in again this season with Pietrangelo and Stone and all these guys, Jack Eichel. What's going to happen in Vegas this summer? Do you have any kind of feel for what might happen with that team, the management, kind of the whole shooting match in Vegas?
Just based on history, I think someone's head's going to be on the block, whether it's the Burrs or the GM.
Mm-hmm.
I think it serves them right. They're cutthroat to their players and staff, and that's my eyes anyway. And they kind of deserve it. They try to, I don't know, they made a lot of risky plays and it caught up to them. They tried to, I don't say break the rules, bend the rules, which I don't mind, but with the Eichel trade, and they thought that was going to fix their problems or turn them into the best team, and it didn't. I don't think they respect their guys, and it kind of cost them, right? Like they try to get rid of Dadonov. As soon as you mess up, it's just there's no loyalty at all.
Yes, they got rid of Stastny real quick. I don't think they really gave him a heads up. They've dealt a lot of guys they had at the beginning. Fleury, obviously that was an ugly departure. They love to part with the guys that kind of built it from the ground up. And I agree with you. I think just based on Gerard Gallant getting fired, I would be shocked that Peter DeBoer is not fired. And I think he's a good coach. I think he'll get another job. But I mean, you got to look at the GM and president. I mean, they're the ones spending the money. They got no cap. Like you said, the Dadonov deal, they didn't look into his no trade, which was crazy that they even tried to pull off that deal. But I assume Riley Smith will be traded because they need money, and maybe Bill Carlson. That's another two OG guys that were there from the beginning. But Pietrangelo, his contract's not moving. Stone's likely not moving. But is there a bigger piece that maybe I'm missing that could be moved this offseason?
Leonard Theodore? I'm trying to think who else gets paid on that team. That little right-handed kid from Quebec.
Marchessault?
Yeah. But
yeah, Leonard's interesting because he's had kind of a whirlwind of a year. I do think he's a good goalie, but his health and fitness is not always up there. I think it's going to be a fascinating offseason for this team because I don't think it's going to sit well that this team that has this much talent on paper did not make the postseason.
But what do? You don't have the picks. You don't have the prospects. What do you build with all these old guys you're paying through your legs? You just gotta have another kick at the can. Actually, start having some faith in your guys and being loyal to them. I mean, let them go again. I actually like their team. Give them a full season together with Stone and Eichel. Let them see what you can do, or see what they can do. Then make your adjustments. I think they haven't given anyone long enough to earn their spot.
Yeah, because I'm not trading Theodore. I like Alec Martinez a lot. What's that?
This summer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, maybe they wanted a little longer off season in Vegas, just to take a peek at what's out and about. But I agree. I think you run it back because Eichel's played 30 games, so he's barely got his feet wet there. Martinez has been hurt all year. But you look at it, the start of next year, they could have Stone, Eichel, Theodore, Pietrangelo, Martinez. Their top three defense, their couple top lines and forwards, those are tough to beat, especially if Eichel is back to his old form.
Yep, I I agree, and I think he's gonna be. He just.
And they're in a weak division.
Yep.
Still. San Jose is not going to be any good next year. I don't think Anaheim is on the come up, but I think they're going to have another year of just basically what they did this year.
They got rid of Manson, Lindholm, and
Yeah.
Not that Deloria is a huge piece, but like they still have to fill those voids.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. They'll need to figure that out. How about in Winnipeg? They missed the playoffs. I certainly thought they'd make the playoffs. They didn't. Are they in a different spot than Vegas where this might be time for a teardown?
Pretty honestly, I don't know. I have a lot of faith in it. I bet on them every year. A futures bet. Like I think they have a good team. They just can't get it done, and I don't know the answer, Jug. I like their team. It's gonna be hard to tear that team down, though. They're old. There's a bunch of old, long contracts on that team. You can build around Dubois and Scheifele. Morrissey's not bad, I guess, but
Ehlers.
That Wheeler contracts there. No, they got out of Bufflin's contract, did they?
Yeah, that's gone. Yeah.
I guess if you get rid of Wheeler, that might turn things around, but that's going to be a hard one to get rid of.
Yeah. Yeah.
They rid of Brian Little's contract, though.
Yeah, that's in Arizona.
So I'm trying to think who else is on there. I like their team, and I find them. I know I talked about Montreal earlier. They get in the playoffs, they got a shot, but I like that team in the playoffs. I feel like it's hard for them to get to the playoffs and win in the playoffs.
Yeah, I like their team too. Dubois had a great year. Scheifele always plays tough. I mean, half of it this year was Hellebuck just didn't play very well. It seems like one year he's going to win the Vezina, the next year he's mediocrity. He's average at best. Because I think their defense is better than it was last year. I think it's like I like the additions of Schmidt. I like Dylan. Like I thought they improved their team as a whole because it wasn't just so Morrissey centered on the back end where he had to do it all. And I don't think he's a number one defenseman, and they asked him to be one. But again, they lose this year. Ehlers took a step down than he was last year. Scheifele had some injuries. Wheeler took a big step down, and I don't think it helped either that Paul Maurice kind of said check please in December on this team.
Yeah, I agree. Curious to see where he ends up.
Yeah. Is there a spot that just screams he's going to go there? Like teams that are not going to make the playoffs, Vegas might have an opening. Maybe he's intrigued in that opening.
Yeah, I'm sure they have the pockets to pay him too.
Yeah. He'd get a bigger contract than he's ever gotten probably in his career if he goes to Vegas.
Yeah. I would, if the Leafs fumble, I would love to see him back in Toronto. I think he's a really good coach, and I love the way he is with the media.
Yes, me too.
Want, or it's like a polite fuck you of an answer, and it's a good answer. He always gives a good answer, I feel like, and he's great with the media, great with the team. You never hear people badmouth him, and the only people you hear calm down is himself, really. He takes a lot of the blame. I'd like to play for him, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, because teams that could potentially lose in the first round, like Toronto. I mean, if Toronto loses in the first round, are they firing Keefe and Dubas? Like, do you see that? Is that a possibility?
Yep. Both or one for sure. I think one for sure is not two.
Right. Probably. But the thing is, I don't think Dubas would fire Keefe.
No, but that's the business. If you don't fire Keefe, we'll fire you.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's head, and then what? Like someone's always above you that's pointing the finger. Who can change the direction of that finger?
Right.
Right. So if Shanahan's on the block, you can blame it on Dubas. If he's on the block, you can blame it on Keefe.
Yeah, it almost should be Shanahan.
I think Dubas should take the hit. And I like him. I just think he's stuck with his guns, which I like. And it's been 3-4 I would say 3 solid years of sticking with those guys. Is Tavares' third year?
Yes.
I think so.
Might be his fourth year. Yeah.
Anyway, it's kind of like he stuck with his guns, and I honor that he did it, and I hope they do well. But you know what I mean? He put his own head on the block.
Yeah, he did. He said he'd live and die by this group. And, if it's like in the exit interview and they're like, okay, you have to trade Nylander because we need salary to make this team better. And he's like, well, no, I believe in them. Then I think it's pretty clear he's firing himself.
Yeah.
In a sense.
I kind of honor him sticking with his guns. I respect him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But if they get ousted first round, because if you want to blame it on the team they constructed, or even just the view of, I do like that he didn't ship his first round pick. Like, you have a good team, you got to give them a chance to win. But fuck, it's a tough year to go for it in the East.
Yeah, it certainly is, especially their division with Florida and Tampa lurking there. But, I mean, Tampa's kind of hurt right now. Vasilevsky looks tired to me. They've been playing poor the last couple of weeks. They'll probably get Tampa, although Boston's only a point back. So there's still the possibility Boston could play Toronto in the first round. Tampa's played a lot of hockey. Boston's not what they were. I think it's justified. Like, Toronto likely wouldn't be a betting favorite against Tampa, but I think they'd be the betting favorite against Boston. So that'd be the third straight year they go into a series as the betting favorite and they lose. Like, that can't happen.
No, without someone's head falling.
Yeah,
it's a shitty opponent. Those are two good teams,
But I mean, you look before, you lose to Columbus, and no offense, but Montreal. I mean, those are two really bad losses.
You dug your own grave.
Yeah.
And and just if you think I'm a Montreal fan and say they're the best team ever, but like still, like, if you can't get by Montreal last year, and especially up 3-1, how do you expect to get by Tampa? And I hope I hope they do well, but that's not even comparable.
No, not at all.
3-1 on Tampa, you're probably still shitting your pants.
Yeah, you're killing yourself to win Game 5 because you don't want Game 6.
Yeah, as soon as it starts to go sour for the Leafs, they hit the panic with this Homer Simpson. Like, I don't know. But if I'm a Leafs fan, I would rather face dumb question, but I'd rather face Boston than Tampa.
Yeah. Yes.
And really, I don't mind Florida compared to Tampa.
I agree.
Carolina and Tampa than the other teams in the East.
But I know you're a big Canes guy, but Frederik Andersen gets hurt, so now they're kind of up in the air. They're still battling with the Rangers for first in the Metropolitan. Like, again, the worst type of year for a goalie injury, but Carolina could be hurt. Like, if they get Boston the first round without Frederik Andersen, I give Boston a very good chance of winning that series.
Carolina's already practicing their trap for the playoffs. That's why they're shit in the bed right now. They're a playoff team, and I know they haven't had the success, but in my eyes, they are ready for playoffs, and they're playing a playoff style game. Doesn't matter if they're calling up their fifth liner. He knows his assignment, and he's going to do it, which is not good news for the Leafs. Not good news. Tampa can handle that, and I love what they did at the deadline. But I'm just jerking Carolina, but they are ready for playoffs, and hopefully when's Anderson back? I hope he's back for the playoffs.
So they're going to reevaluate him in a week.
But they're a playoff team that I'm not a huge Ranta fan, and I don't think he's going to be lights out. But
he's not winning you a cup. I don't care if you're playing the fucking the Boucher trap. You're not winning a cup with him.
No, but I think he can hold off. The goaltender is not going to be the issue, and I think Freddie's having a great year. But those shots aren't coming from the slot like they were 6 a game 3 days ago, like they were last year. I think he's
right.
He might not win, but he's probably not going to cost you either first round or two. You do need Freddie back if you want the cup, though. I do agree.
Who's winning the Vezina?
Igor.
Shesterkin? Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Is he a guy that you would nominate for the Hart?
I don't think you can really give an answer. I definitely have a bias because of my bets, but
Who'd you bet on?
Yossi.
Okay.
But I mean, besides for Matthews, you can argue a lot of other guys in that conversation. I'm not even in 5 games maybe Matthews won't be the favorite anymore. That's how tight of a race it is. But I think he's top 3. But Gaudreau's arguable, Shesterkin's arguable, Makar and Yossi are up there, and that's not even mentioning the 2 guys from Edmonton.
Or Huberdeau.
Exactly. So there's a lot of guys. I think all those guys are, if they were in the nomination, it wouldn't surprise me. I do think Matthews is a lock, though, for the not to win it right now, but I think he's definitely the favorite, and he's going to be nominated.
Yeah, I think what will be interesting to see is how many games he plays down the stretch, because he's missed the last 2 with an injury. And obviously, he's had a great season, a couple of points off of 100, a couple goals away from 60. But if he doesn't play again, you have like Huberdeau at 3 points last night in a 3-2 win. Gaudreau's been on a tear lately. Like, if one of those 2 guys could potentially win the Art Ross, I think it would help them a lot in their chances of winning the Hart.
Exactly. He might, if he doesn't play, he's not playing himself out of it, but someone might play themselves into it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think he's a lock nominee. I just don't think he's a lock winner. I did think he was a lock winner probably 2 weeks ago. I said that in the show, but I'm not certain of it anymore.
Yeah, and I thought Yossi was a lock winner a month ago before Matt went on that heater. But I do think he's the favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I still think he is. Who's the bigger playoff threat, Nashville or Dallas?
Good question. I wouldn't want to play either of them, especially in the wild card spot where you're supposed to win. But I like Nashville. They both got there 2 or 3 years ago. It was like 2 years for Dallas, maybe 3 for Nashville, or 4. But clearly, I'm on the OC train. I like Saros as well, and I just find they're deep. They're a deep team. No superstars. I don't find Duchesne super great, but saying you can slot them up and down, you might be randomly on your 3rd line or 2nd line. Like, they're just a deep, well-balanced team. I do like Dallas too. They're not as good as Winnipeg, as like beefy, but then you're paying them 9.5, and you're glad you are in the playoffs, but you aren't during the regular season. He's
right.
A little thing, right? Seguin, on the other hand, hopefully he can find his game, but if those guys, you only got to find your game for a month or 2, but if those guys get hot, they scare me. Pavelski, I love.
Well, that line with Hintz, Pavelski, and Robertson has just been unbelievable.
Yeah, they're saving Ben and Seguin from jumping.
Yeah.
They've taken a lot of heat off those boys. Great.
Yeah, because they've had quiet seasons.
If I was Ben, I'd be driving Robertson to the gym every morning.
Yeah, he might get 40 goals. He's got 36. He might get to 40 goals this year, which is pretty incredible for a guy that Nick Robertson, who's in the American League, gets talked about more.
Yeah, no, that guy's a bust, but Jason's a great player, I think. No, I'm just joking. No, he's a underrated player for sure. He's really good. I like him.
Yeah. Who's the easiest team to play in the playoffs? Like, everybody that you see is like, is it Washington, Dallas? Like, who would you want to play the most?
LA, I think.
LA.
Probably
Okay.
Washington.
Yeah.
The Leafs.
Yeah, LA, I think they're going to make it because they got such an easy schedule. They have 4 games left, and they play like 4 non-playoff teams right now because Vancouver screwed themselves last night, losing to Ottawa. But, I mean, just LA making the playoffs is a pretty good achievement for them with such a young team and where they are compared to, say, like Anaheim.
Yep, I agree. And Phil Deneau is kind of underrated. He was big reason why Montreal got to where they got last year. Just an absolute rat to play against. Not dirty, but just annoying. Like wins is like Bergeron without the name, I guess. Wins
Right.
is in your face. Like he shut down Matthews very efficiently. Shut down everyone last year in the playoffs, and that and hopefully let's Kopitar play his game right. That team jumped a lot because of that signing. And with Dowdy out though, I just think I think they had a great regular season. I just don't love them for the playoffs. There's a lot of good teams in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. I know you weren't happy that Scotty Scheffler won the Masters because I know you're not a fan because I sat with you for the Saturday and you didn't have many nice things to say about Scotty. But you got any feeling anybody going into the PGA? Got any futures bets that you feel like you might lay down? Any kind of sports bets that you might want to lay down moving forward here?
Sports bets or golf?
Either or.
I'll say sports bets if you have some spare cash around. If you gotta go in your mother's purse and take $20, what's he saying?
Yeah.
You go in your mother's purse, you take $20
out. Right.
Cider. I think he's an absolute lock for the Calder. I think that's about as free money as you can get. If I was someone with some spare cash like your rent, I would invest in cider.
I think the Rents are betting on bunting.
Bunting, yeah. They can afford to lose. I can't.
Yeah.
Golf. Clearly, I'm going to bet on Tiger. Not too much, but I really like Cameron Smith. I find he's just because I'm not a fan of Scheffler, not for any particular reason, maybe a few. But I find Cam Smith playing really good golf lately, and I just like his style, his demeanor. He's calm. He's freaking really good on the greens. He can putt. And yeah, I'm on the Cam Smith train lately.
Have you played around yet?
No. I've been to the simulator 3 times, all 3 different simulators, but I'm excited to get out.
Yeah, if it ever stops raining, it might be close. I see Casey's been on the course already, so he's already getting a feel for it. So you'll have to be the next one to join.
Yeah, hopefully soon. Hopefully Iggy opens up this weekend.
Right. No, perfect. Well, appreciate the time today, Cole. As always great chat with you. But take care and thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Go Habs.
There you heard it. Go Habs, go. Yeah, big Habs fan. Carey Price is still there as of now. Wait and see if he remains in Montreal long term. What happens there at Marty St. Louis? If he's the head coach next year, what happens? So there's still a lot to be decided in Montreal. The next couple of weeks as the season winds down, we talked about Vegas today, talked about Winnipeg, but some other teams, like what do they do this offseason? What happens with this team going forward? That's some interesting things to talk about. It's just where do these teams end up? What kind of moves can they make? What's the future? I look at a team like Detroit. They've been a team that's struggling forever. Can they turn it around in the next season? Is Jeff Blashill behind the bench? So a lot of different things we can dive into on that front moving forward. So tonight we got NBA playoffs. Tonight we got Raptors, Sixers, as I mentioned, game 3 back in Toronto. We also got Nets, Celtics, game 2. Finally, Bulls, Bucks, game 2 in Milwaukee. Only 4 NHL games tonight. The biggest one is Stars, Oilers. Dallas fighting for a playoff spot. Edmonton's hoping to help out. Well, just hoping to get a win, but also they'd help out their foe, the Vancouver Canucks, in the process. Blackhawks, Coyotes, meaningless game. Capitals, Golden Knights, not much there either. Golden Knights need a win, but again, they're probably out of it at this point. Today in baseball, the Brewers got past the Pirates. The Guardians destroyed the White Sox 11-1 in a makeup game. They'll play a doubleheader. Dallas Keuchel allowed 8 earned runs in only 1 inning of work, 10 hits. Tough day for him. Jose Ramirez had 4 RBIs for the Guardians. So Guardians improved to 5-5, 6-4 White Sox. So they've been off just to an okay start, kind of like the Blue Jays. Dodgers are currently beating the Braves 4-0 in the final game of a 3-game series. Now 5-0. Trey Turner with a single. But they're Freddie Freeman with another homer in the first inning, so he's been having a great series against his old team. But tonight you got Yankees, Tigers, Angels, Astros. Game 2, Shohei Ohtani's on the mound. Blue Jays, Red Sox, Nats, Mets. So a lot of sports this evening. We'll get into all of it tomorrow. But until then, take care, stay healthy, stay safe, and just swing to the point.